Jumping back now into the action here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast, we'll continue reviewing some of these games because there was a lot of good ones this past weekend, and one of them, again, having to relate to the Miami teams with this 49ers game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a close back-and-forth contest that finally went in the favor of San Francisco after they finally got over those 3 missed field goals to hit the most important one there at the end to defeat the Buccaneers, like I said, 23-20 back on Sunday. And the 49ers, coming off of their bye week, they go back to above 500 at 5-4 now, while the Buccaneers lose their 4th straight game, and they are now sitting at 4-6. And now they are going into their bye week, and they're set to play the Giants after this week. So they're expected to get Mike Evans back, which is huge. Obviously, now probably having to win the remainder of their games and probably still get a little bit of help. But we're going to talk about that towards the end of this segment. But more so on this game and more so on the Buccaneers, we discussed after the Ravens game, which it felt like the Bucs were just dominated in that game, but in reality, it was only a 10-point game, and they probably weren't favored in that game anyway. So the games after that Baltimore loss, there was 3 games that followed, right? The toughest part of their schedule featured the Falcons, the Chiefs, and this past game against the 49ers. And now, knowing that they were going to be without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, it got that much tougher. But still, going through the toughest part of their schedule, they end up losing all 3 of those games, right? Unfortunately, but they were all one-score, close-margin games that you just can't help but think, like, what if, right? We talked about the what-if scenarios with the Dolphins, and you can't help but do it also with the Buccaneers, right? Because after the Ravens loss, they lost to the Falcons by only 5 points. Then they played that great overtime game against the Chiefs in which they lost, by 1 score again. And just on Sunday, they lost by 3 points to the 49ers. So any one play, more of an advantage in these missed opportunities where they would have taken advantage in some of these missed opportunities. Maybe 1, 2, or even all 3 of these games swing in your favor. And this Bucs team is looking very different now. With Mike Evans coming back, the whole vibes around them, I'm sure, would have changed. But, that's unfortunately how it goes in the NFL. It's a game of margins and things like that. Any one play could be a starter to you eventually losing the game, because I don't like saying just one play cost you the game. There's a bunch of opportunities for a bunch of teams in games that they get blown out, they lose by 1 score or whatnot. It's not just one play that decides everything when you really look back at it. But that was really the story for the Buccaneers in this game. But really one of the other stories for the 49ers was the return of Christian McCaffrey in this game. He made his debut finally this year against the Buccaneers, and he recorded over 100 yards from scrimmage on Sunday, which it didn't look so dominant, but I thought he made some pretty timely plays and really helped Brock Purdy out as well. After this win, San Francisco is now only 1 game behind from that last wild card spot with the Green Bay Packers. The 49ers, like I said, are 5-4, and the Packers are sitting at 6-3, and they had a bye week last week. So they're right there with the Packers and kind of sneaking in and taking away that last playoff spot from the Packers. And what's even more exciting about that is that both of them don't play each other this upcoming week, but the following week, the 49ers play in Green Bay, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be awesome if the Packers lose and the 49ers win again, or they both win. It's going to have a lot of high stakes around it. So that's going to be a great matchup. But not looking too far ahead, now for the Buccaneers, they fall a few spots even lower on the playoff race bracket, and now they're 3 games behind the last place team in the playoffs, being the Packers as well. So, yeah, I mean, their path to the playoffs now gets a lot more complicated. Like I said, they're probably going to have to win all of their games now and even still get help from a bunch of other results to go in their favor. So that's the path now, that ultimately that they're going to just have to play through, and we'll see where they end up in like a month's time where we get closer to the playoffs. But in this game, For the 49ers, Brock Purdy threw for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, like I said, came back and he rushed for 39 yards, but he was more involved in the passing game with 68 receiving yards and 6 receptions overall. Jawan Jennings stepped up. He had 7 receptions for 93 yards. Him and Brock Purdy are building a good relationship, so that's great to see. And Ricky Pearsall, he scored his first touchdown of his NFL career. He also added 73 yards on top of that as well. And I can't forget to mention George Kittle. He had 3 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown, which was awesome to see. He continues his fantastic season. And for the Buccaneers, the numbers don't really give it justice, but I think overall their defense has played better for a lot of these close games. But Baker Mayfield, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Bucky Irving led them in rushing with 73. Rashad White had the most receptions with 6. He scored a touchdown and also contributed with 39 receiving yards. And Cade Otton as well, 35 receiving yards for him on Sunday. And again, the numbers don't do it justice, but I think it's really more so the fact that their defense steps up and they do enough a lot of these times. But again, their biggest problem is that they can't finish these games off, where they do a lot of good, but at the end, something goes wrong, a decision's not taken or the wrong decision's taken, and it's costed them, I believe, in the last few games. So looking at this game, it was completely bonkers on how it all turned out, because San Francisco was leading 10-3 when Jake Moody missed his first field goal. So it stayed 10-3 going into halftime, and you're thinking, all right, Jake Moody, he's coming back from a sprained ankle. We can allow him a miss. We can allow him a miss just because it's not easy by any means. He might have sprained his kicking ankle too, so you can only imagine how difficult that is. Then after halftime, Tampa Bay punted on the first drive, but San Francisco dropped that punt, and Tampa Bay was able to recover, and little did you know, of course, like it always happens, they get an opportunity, the 49ers miss an opportunity, and they fumble the punt, and now the game is tied 10-10 early in the second half. Then, after San Francisco gets another field goal, Tampa Bay goes down and scores again the second touchdown of the game, this time to start the fourth quarter, and out of nowhere, the Buccaneers now take the lead 13-17. And after that, we get the second missed field goal when Jake Moody missed his second kick that would have tied it, but luckily for the 49ers, their defense was able to step up, and Tampa Bay punted again, and San Francisco regained the lead when they scored another touchdown to make it 20-17. And at this point, you're not really knowing where the game is going to go, honestly, because we're getting missed kicks. The lead is switching every other time, and then when it's 20-17, Jake Moody goes out there again and misses another field goal. So that's 3 that he's missed at this point. So it stayed 20-17. And of course, the Buccaneers take advantage of one of these missed kicks finally, and they tie it 20-20. But their defense didn't hold up enough at the end of the game. Brock Purdy had a great drive to get him in field goal position, and Jake Moody, from the same distance that he'd missed the third kick, finally makes this last one, and the 49ers win, like I said, 23-20 in the end. And the biggest thing that I took from it was that, like, good teams, when you get opportunities like this, you got, like, the missed kicks I'm referring to, you got to take advantage of it. You got to capitalize, especially when you're in a position where no Godwin, no Evans, and you've already lost your 2 previous games. So you got to have this one, especially at home. When you get a muffed punt, they took advantage of that, to their credit. But the 3 missed kicks, if you don't take advantage of one, fine. But the other 2, you got to at least get 2 out of the 3. For them to only get 1 and to lose by 3, it definitely stings a lot more. So that was something that, of course, they're probably going to be kicking themselves about by not taking more advantage of that and punting on 2 of those missed kicks and only converting on 3 points. Heck, even if they get a touchdown on one of them, this game could look a little bit different. So, yeah, that just goes to add to the missed opportunities in this game for the Buccaneers. And, again, I believe it's just super harsh on the Bucs because they've been really competitive with these two guys that are so important to them, but they just haven't been able to finish these games for whatever reason. So that's really the biggest takeaway for me from the Buccaneers, how they're going to look back on these chances, and if they miss the playoffs, look back to this part of the season and think like, man, if we got, a touchdown here, or converted on a field goal here, or, maybe went for two at the end of the Chiefs game, I don't know. It's definitely a harder pill to swallow when you feel like you're right there, but that is all on the Tampa Bay Bucs. But for the 49ers, a win is a win. They get back over 500, but some of the things that I wanted to talk about with them, to give credit to them, Brock Purdy made a couple fantastic throws. The touchdown to Kittle was awesome. And the one to Christian McCaffrey down the right sideline where he kind of just threw it up. And I don't even know if McCaffrey knew where the ball was, but he looked up and it was right there, which was a huge gain for them. But the penalties is something I don't like. They had 6 penalties on Sunday and 9 penalties against Dallas that they need to clean up, in all honesty. But that's really the one thing, the one negative. Some of the sloppy plays on special teams as well. We talked about the muff punt and the missed field goals. That can't happen later on in the season. So that's also another thing. But more on the positive side, Ricky Pearsall had a great day. Hopefully he continues to build that relationship with Brock, because I really liked how he played on Sunday. And Christian McCaffrey obviously coming back was a great, reintegration to this 49ers offense, but not the fact that he can have, those crazy games where he rushes for over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns and things like that. But I think he's so important to Brock Purdy now because of the fact that, they lost Brandon Ayuk, and I feel like in a bunch of these close moments where you knew the Bucs were going to blitz, or you knew you needed to get this first down on a third down, you send Christian McCaffrey out to the flat in a matchup against a linebacker, or really any matchup, and it feels like Brock always kind of favored him in any of these matchups, and that's huge. Converting these third downs, having a guy that you can rely upon, like a second tight end, or like a very good receiver like Christian McCaffrey can be, even out of the backfield too. That's going to be huge for them going forward. It's going to make Brock a lot more comfortable having that weapon that you can really trust. So that's really what they're getting back, on top of all the other amazing things that Christian McCaffrey brings, obviously. But yeah, the 49ers escape with a win, and now they're definitely trying to get this thing rolling here, now heading into the middle part of November and the last part of the regular season. So we're going to leave that there, but we're going to stay in the NFC West and talk about the Arizona Cardinals, still in first place in that division, and even more so after a dominant win over the New York Jets. One, are the Cardinals for real, and have we just been wrong about them? Or did the Jets completely bamboozle us last week, and they're really just not that good after performing very good against the Houston Texans? We'll make that determination in just a few seconds. We'll be right back.
Looking for your